Morgan Pyper fans, welcome back to part 3 of our interview here with the GOAT. Go back and watch part 1 and part 2 with Morgan if you haven't already. Some good content, good conversations going on. Really inspiring story of hearing you get to BYU. I find it inspiring to me because, like, since I've been here, I came in 21. I've seen you as like that special teams guy and like that guy that you kind of radiate energy and confidence. So I do appreciate you in that way. So we're kind of going to go into a little bit more about your career since being at BYU. So you started as a running back and kind of made some movements. So just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I came in as a running back. I was on Scout-O, making, with my Scout-O guys, we were making some plays, right? I talked with from Scout-O was when, so at the time Coach Lamb was the special teams coordinator, right? And so in that time he would see me because he was over, I can't remember what position group he was over at the time, but he came up to me and said, hey, we love your athleticism. If they're not going to, use you at running back, we could use you on defense. And then that was after, I started seeing the more plays I made on scout offense, I started getting my name on whether it was third string for a certain thing in special teams. Yeah. I was stoked. It was my first year. I just seen my name on the depth chart for something. It was awesome. I always felt like $1 million. I was like, oh, I'm going to chase that feeling, right? So, and then I dressed that first year, my last 3 games, and that was awesome. That was dream come true. You set goals when you reach them, right? But at that point, I was could see myself in the uniform. I was like, oh man, this is it. This is the reason why this is my dream. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I just kept chasing that, right? And so after that first year, they switched me to safety because I was like, whatever's gonna get me on the field the fastest, right? And so I was a safety, and then in the 2020 seasons when I started, starting on punt, starting on kickoff, and then just having the opportunity to go make plays, I got a lot of special teams production, and that's when you're young on the team, that's how you make a name for yourself, right? You're not gonna there's very few players that will get immediately into a starting role, right? Me as a walk-on, a true walk-on, I had to go to the tryout and everything, you're the bottom of the barrel, right? There's every single end of the season, every single spring ball, people are getting cut, right? And so you've got to give them a reason not to cut you. So special teams allowed me to do that, and I was fortunate enough to be one of the top special teams producers for a couple of years, and then that allowed me to as I was starting on punt, I was starting on kickoff, then I started in 2021 on starting on kickoff return and punt return, and so I was making my way to special teams, right? And that's what opened the door for me to start getting in the 2 deep, right? Playing linebacker is when they moved me from safety to linebacker. I forgot to mention that. And it was awesome. And then it got me to the point where I'd been making so many plays on special teams that they're like, well, this guy can tackle, let's get him in that 2 deep, and then got to the point where I was able to start a couple games and at linebacker, which is, I was an offensive guy all growing up. I never played defense, but that it's sweet that, they can take that, they're like, all right, this is an athletic guy, and they teach you and they coach you up really well, and never would have thought I was playing linebacker in a college football game, but there I was, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it was awesome, and special teams really allowed me, it really paved that way to earn credibility with the coaches, and then, be able to crack the depth chart and start seeing some significant time on the field playing linebacker of all positions. So
what's kind of some of your best memories since you've been at BYU? Whether they're in games, out of games.
Yeah, best memory I can think of. Well, just because it just meant a lot as far as, it was more of a team thing, obviously, but the reason why I wanted to play BYU football in the first place was when I always loved football, but when I knew I wanted to play football at BYU, I was watching the BYU-Utah game in 2006, and I remember just sitting on my chair, and I was young, right? Yeah. And I'm just watching, just on the edge of my seat, John Beck snaps it, you know what I mean? I'm like, there's no way, but are we going to score? There's no way, but, trying to play, devil's advocate, right? I was like, You know, we're going to do this. He goes across the field, and when he starts running, goes right. I was like, there's no way there's a receiver over there. Throws it. Johnny Harling's on his knees. And I'm crying. I'm a little boy, and I'm just crying tears, right? And I just remember how good and how my family's going nuts, throwing pillows. Couches are being thrown. Like, everyone's just, like, throwing, like, the couches away so, like, they could get to each other and hug each other. And anyway, so I just remember I was like, I can't leave BYU without beating Utah, right? And so I had an opportunity to play, you know, quite a few snaps on defense in that game, and then be able to make some plays on special teams as well, and then just seeing that, you know, BYU all the fans rush the field, that was probably one of the coolest experiences for me. So I love that. And then again, the game against Utah State, I think that was my career high in tackles. I had like 9 or 10, and that was sweet too, because that was against a rival. The fans were crazy. My whole family was there, so it was just the best part was being able to go with my family afterwards. And honestly, like, I started getting emotional with them, because I was like, you know, I never thought I could get to this. Well, I mean, I always wanted to, right? But like, you get to that point and just like, you know, like, you see my mom and dad and like just looking at it, like, you're doing it. You know what I mean? Like, this is what you wanted to do. And I was like, man, like, that's exactly right. Like, so those have probably been my top 2 favorite experiences.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. There's definitely something special, you know, looking over, seeing like your parents crying because you're wearing a uniform, you know.
Right.
I love that. That's gonna kind of take us out of our third segment. We'll get into a little more about the, you know, Big 12 this upcoming year in our fourth segment. But it's so fun having you on the show so far. I really appreciate you for being out here. Cougar fans, be sure to stick around for our part 4 with Morgan. Some expectations, some goals for this upcoming year are gonna be talked about there. So thanks for watching part 3. Be sure to stick around for that part 4, and go back and watch part 1 and 2 if you haven't already. Just some good content, loving it. I can't help but smile hearing all these stories that you're sharing. So I assume that all y'all watching out there are feeling the same way. So that's why you got to stay around for part 4. But thanks, Cougar fans, for watching. Thank you for watching this interview. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss the other 2 parts of this interview, plus all of our other interviews we do with BYU athletes. We also like to give a special thanks to our Cougar Board insiders for making this possible.